Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the webinar on Pricing 101, Adjusting for Change. My name is Dolores Serafin, and I work for Alberta Agriculture and Forestry with the Sector Development section. I will be your host for today's webinar. If you would like to ask a question, please type it into the question area on your GoToWebinar panel. Direct all questions to the organizer, and I will make sure that our presenter addresses all of the questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded for your viewing pleasure at a later date. The link will be sent to you in an email after the live webinar. We are anticipating approximately 45 minutes of presentation time, which will leave us lots of time for questions and answers. Now that you have a clear understanding of what your actual costs are, you are well positioned to determine a fair price for your food products. Are your prices accurate? Are you leaving money on the table or charging too much? This webinar will help you answer those questions. Our presenter today is Marissa Brewer. Marissa is a new venture specialist with Alberta Agriculture and Forestry. Her role is to provide coaching and connect new and expanding businesses with the information and tools that they need to make smart choices for their business. Growing up on a farm combined with her business background and 11 years experience working with Alberta Agriculture in the local food and domestic markets areas has given her a diverse knowledge of the industry in Alberta. Marissa, over to you to share your expertise with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Dolores, and hello, everyone. When I was asked to talk about pricing for this webinar, I found it a challenge to determine what I should touch on, as there are many different elements of pricing, and each we could spend a fair amount of time discussing. So just before I get started, if you feel like you want to explore something that we talked about, but we don't get into too much detail on today, or if you want to talk about something that we won't get a chance to touch on, please feel free to reach out and we can discuss those topics further. So with that, today, we are going to be talking about some of the basics of pricing and some key information to help you start thinking about pricing your products. So we are going to quickly review what is cost of production and break even. We will look at a few different strategies you can use to help you set a price. We'll also be looking at a few examples of pricing when dealing with change, and we'll discuss some key things to keep in mind when pricing. Before you can calculate an accurate price for your products, you're going to need to know how much it costs. Cost of production is the total cost incurred by a business when producing a product or service. This includes all costs associated with getting your product to your customers. It's the cost to grow, raise, or process, as well as the cost to market and sell it. Those costs can be broken down into what we call variable and fixed costs. So it's to calculate your COP, your cost of production, you're going to add those variable costs and fixed costs together. So what are variable costs and what are fixed costs? Variable costs are things, or the business's expenses that change with the number of units made or grown. So these are things like ingredients, feed, seed, processing expenses or fees for co-packers, packaging costs, shipping or transportation, labor costs, and all of those costs that are involved in marketing the product. Marketing costs like designing price lists, advertising, display costs, tents, farmers market booth fees, all of those costs that would decrease or increase with the volume you make. Fixed costs are those expenses that do not change from month to month. Sometimes these get referred to as overhead, and they occur no matter how many units you are making or growing. Examples of these are things like equipment expenses, land expenses, renting a kitchen, building a facility costs, interest, insurance. COP is or cost of production is one of the most important factors that influences your business's profitability. Knowing the cost to raise or grow or process your product and then market and sell it enables you to calculate your selling price. So it's very important to do this step before you start pricing your product. Also, before you can calculate an accurate price for your product, you're going to need to know, what is your break even? So first off, what is break even? Break even is the point where costs or expenses equal your revenues or sales. So break even is a standard calculation used in business to discover what level of production is required for the operation to cover all of its costs, or is the sales value at a particular price at which there is neither a loss nor a profit from the sale of your product. So it's the place where there's no gain, no loss, all expenses equal sales. Fixed cost and variable cost together help you find the break-even point or your cost of goods sold, which serves as your minimum to build your pricing strategy from. Having a good understanding of all your costs and knowing your break-even sets you up in a good position to price your product properly. Before you can set a price, it's important to have done your work on your cost of production. So if you haven't done work yet, and if you'd like to learn more about the importance of cost of production and how to calculate your COP, I would recommend checking out our e-learning tool. The link's on the screen. I'll also be posting it later in the PowerPoint presentation as well. So I'd recommend taking a look at that. And also, we did a webinar last week. And so if you didn't attend that, I'm sure we could get the link to you as well. Setting a price for your products is one of the hardest parts of running a business. The price has to be low enough that your customers see value and are willing to pay, but high enough that you earn a profit. If you set the price lower than what customers are willing to pay, you could be leaving valuable revenue on the table. If the price is too high, you may struggle to sell your product. So choosing an effective pricing strategy for your business's product or service can mean the difference between a profitable, successful business and one that fails to thrive, which could mean the difference of having a sustainable business and having one that struggles to make a profit. So before we start looking at some strategies, I'd just like to talk a little first about the difference between cost and value. So cost is the amount you spend to produce a product. Price, pretty straightforward, is the financial reward you receive for your product and what you are charging your clients. And value is what your customer believes the product or service is worth to them. For example, say a plumber, the cost for a plumber to fix a bursted pipe at a customer's home is about $10 for travel, materials cost $15, labor's maybe $20. However, the value of the service to the customer might be far greater than that $45 cost, as that service that the plumber comes to do may have decreased the chance of larger damage to their house. So the plumber may decide to base his price on value rather than cost. So he might charge a higher price. You see that with emergency costs. So if you need a plumber for emergency case or water delivery or sewer services, they have emergency fees. You know, you put higher value on that, so there might be a higher price point. Pricing should be in line with the value of the benefits that your business provides for its customer, while also bearing in mind the prices your competitors charge and your costs. Knowing your customers and their perceived value of your product is also very important. It can make sure that you are not missing out on any profit. It is important to do some market research, know and not assume who your market is, and the demand for the product you're trying to sell. Who is your primary customer? What is the market size? Where are the customers located? How often or likely are they to purchase your product? This helps determine if they're price sensitive. And also, what is their perceived value? Knowing what the perceived value of your product is can help you set your price more accurately. For example, let's look at two different coffee shops. Coffee's coffee, right? But what is the difference between these two coffee shops? Let's take a look. So if we look at coffee shop number one, they sell their coffee for less. They have standard sizes. It's not very customizable. You know, you can have your 1 cream, 1 sugar, 2 creams, 2 sugar. They have lots of products, and location, you can find them all over. You can find one basically on every corner of street. Coffee shop number two, their coffee is priced higher. It is hand done. You may even get a customized design done in the foam or whip of your coffee, maybe in the shape of a heart. Comes with a stopper, cup cozy, and you can customize your order. Each attracts different kinds of clients. Store one may attract those that are more price sensitive, as the actual value and perceived value are both low, so that price reflects that. Store two attracts those that are looking for more than just coffee. The perceived value and actual value are both high, which then reflects the price point being higher and the customer's willing to pay more. Also, to take into consideration when determining price, we're just going to quickly look at the difference between features and benefits. So knowing the features and benefits and the difference of both can help us not only market, but knowing the benefits of your product can help you build value to your customers and show them the value of your product versus what is already out there. So features describes what a product does. It is what automatically comes with the product, the flavor, the size, the color. Benefits is just, they describe how the product can help the audience. It is what will the customer gain by using the product. For example, such as saving time, reducing cost, becoming happier, healthier, more relaxed, more productive. For example, let's say we have our product's mini muffins, so bite-sized muffins. Our feature may be that they're small, but we can ask, so what? What would be a benefit of that? Well, it might be that it's convenient to eat, one bite, quick snack. Benefits are what motivate or make people purchase. They can help clients see the value in your product and what's in it for them. So yeah, just an example, let's take a look at eggs. So eggs come in different sizes, so that could be a feature, large eggs, brown. We could say that they're high quality protein. A benefit may be that there are many ways that you can use eggs. They're a nutritious treat and an easy way to get the essential vitamins and minerals essential to your health. You might have seen, they come in liquid format. An ad that pops into my mind about eggs recently was an advertisement where they were promoting lunch eggs, right? So, there is no difference between an egg and an egg, but they were promoting lunch eggs, right? So the value of that, it's not just breakfast. So once you've had a good handle on what your cost of production is and your break-even point, who your customers are, what benefits you bring, you are better prepared to start pricing. There are many ways to set your product's price. The three most common ways of setting your price are cost-based pricing, competition-based pricing, and customer-based pricing. So cost-based pricing involves figuring out what it costs you to make your product and then adding a percentage or markup to determine the final price. So what would some advantages of cost-based pricing is it's relatively easy to calculate, easy to apply to multiple products. Disadvantages, it doesn't consider how your customer demand affects price. And your competition is not necessarily considered with their pricing. It's your COP plus a profit number, or it can be a percentage that you want to receive. An example of cost-based pricing is, let's say that the cost of producing a pie is $10 and we want or we need to have a $3 profit. So to get our price, we could simply just take, if we were using cost-based pricing, our COP, which is $10, plus our profit that we need to make $3 to get our price of $13. Competition-based pricing is where your price covers the costs and is comparable to your competitor's price. You can price the same, higher, or lower. So basically, it's using your competition's price as a base starting point. Advantages is it's industry focused and how you compare. You can charge a higher price if you can show uniqueness or innovative qualities. A disadvantage maybe you may be sacrificing profit to match your competition's price. Market research is key to success in this one. It can be mimicked, and this is where knowing your cost of production is really important so that you don't go too low. So you want to make sure if you're using strictly competition-based pricing to price your product, that you understand your costs so that you don't go below your cost of production. By looking at who else wants the customer's dollars, you can realize what share or percentage of the market might be realistically available to you as well. An example of competition-based pricing is, let's say that the cost of production for our pie is $9.50. The cheapest frozen apple pie is $5.99 at Safeway. And the closest competition to us is the Grand Central Bakery's pie, priced at $18.95. How should we price our pie? I believe I have a poll that, Dolores, if you wouldn't mind sending out to everyone. So yeah, if you could take a moment and give me your opinion on how you think we should price our pie based on competition-based pricing. Should we base it close to the Safeway $5.99 pie? Should we be pricing it closer to Grand Central Bakery's pie?
I'm just going to give people about 10-15 more seconds to put in their answers here.
Yeah, keeping in mind our cost of production is $9.50.
All right, 5 more seconds and I am closing the poll. And the poll is now closed. So your results for the poll are 75% of the respondents figured $14 was the correct choice, and 25% chose $11.50. So there's the
Awesome. Excellent.
breakdown.
Breakdown. Excellent. Thank you all for participating. There is no right answer, right? Pricing is subjective. So based on our benefits, we may say that our price pie is more comparable to the $18.95. So yeah, $14 would make sense. Same with the $11.50. We're covering our costs. So depending on how we look at, the value of our pie too, we might be able to price it the $14, the $11.50. So both those answers, yeah, are great. All right, so let's move on. So let's look at consumer-based pricing. So consumer-based pricing is pricing based on the value that consumers perceive your product is worth. So it's based on the customer's demand or need for your product. So are you offering something that's healthy, convenient, a source of maybe something they're looking for? It's focused on your target customer. So understanding your customer is very important for this type of pricing strategy. And prestige pricing reflects optimum product image. So you can have that prestige pricing based on the value your customers put on your product. Some advantages is customer focus, so price set to support a product image. Price benefits of prestige pricing, so you can get the full benefit and profit from pricing like this. Disadvantage is that it ignores production costs, and competition is also not considered if you strictly used this strategy. So think about what the consumer perceives as the best value for their dollar when you price in with this kind of strategy. They will pay more for any extra value derived from that is to their benefit. You may be able to think less about changes in your production costs if you have a product that is highly valued and you can price it at that higher price point. An example, so whether your product has an organic or health benefit or some convenience value that folks just love to pay for, that is when you can increase that price because the customer values it more. For example, you need to know your market and what they value. For example, I personally was not a Starbucks drinker, but a few years ago I developed an allergy, and I find that Starbucks is able to meet my needs better than going to, say, some more local, easy to find um, coffee places. So I put more value personally for what Starbucks can offer me. So I'm okay maybe seeking out a Starbucks or paying extra for my coffee um, because I put value for my health and how, I don't get sick. So that's important to me. So I will pay that extra premium for that service. As you review each pricing method, think about your business, the industry you operate in, and your target customer. Although the pricing methods here that I talked about are detailed separately, it is acceptable to blend several pricing methods to suit your business and the type of products you sell. So a lot of people will blend them. Push also for the value of what you're selling and be prepared to promote the value to what the customer wants. For example, if say your customer has 6 children and the pie feeds 8, this would be useful information, useful promotion in a community where there are large families. Or if your demographics are singles, maybe mini pies would have more value. So knowing your target market and what value they place on it can be very helpful in pricing your products and even where to sell your products. Do what works for you and make sure that your costs are covered and you are able to have some sort of profit margin. Keep in mind that pricing strategy is highly dependent on your business and your current and future situation as well. So what works for your competition may not work for you. So let's look at a scenario. Some of you may have seen this example if you participated on the webinar last week. It is also one that is used in our cost of production and e-learning tools, which I'll be sharing the links to again at the end of the presentation. So this company is called Salsa Alta. They are a small company that makes a salsa product. They sell directly to customers at farmers markets. Product is sold in 500 milliliter jars. One batch makes about 2,500 milliliter jars, and they make about 6 to 7 batches at one time. They rent a commercial kitchen, and they make approximately 140 jars per week, and they sell at a number of local farmers markets. They need to make a $3 profit on each jar. So here we've got a good example. They did a very nice cost breakdown of what their variable costs are. So we can see that Salsa Alta's cost per jar for their variable costs, so those things like ingredients, labor, packaging costs, transportation, marketing costs, their farmers market fee, booth fees, that it cost them $6.02 for their variable costs. They also did a good job of laying out all their fixed costs. Now, you can see we're keeping this example very simple. So there's no management salaries or loans or operating interests, but we can see that their cost per month are $96.67. We even went one step further and broke down that their cost per unit is 17 cents. So if we know our fixed costs and our variable costs, we've got our total cost of production, and we know that we need to make a $3 profit. What is the price? So we can take those numbers. So we're going to take our cost of production, which is our $6.02 variable cost plus our 17 cents that we know for fixed costs. We're going to take that number, which is $16.19. We're going to add it to the profit that we need to make, and we get $9.19 as the price that we will sell it at if we were just strictly using cost-based pricing. Now let's take a look at and consider maybe our competition as well. Let's look at cost-based pricing and competition-based pricing. So let's say our competition is selling their organic salsa at $13.50, and Amy's salsa is selling hers for $10.50. What could we sell ours for? Also meeting our profit needs of $3. So the price we need to sell, we know, is $9.19 to meet our $3 profit goal. So we know we need to price it more than that. But looking at our competition and comparing what we can offer our product and our customers' perceived value, we may feel that we could charge maybe $11.50 for our product. Or maybe our product is organic as well, and the perceived value of our clients of our products is high. So maybe we can charge that $13.50 as well. So understanding who our target market is and understanding what the perceived value is can definitely help us on pricing our product. There are many more pricing strategies and tactics that can be used to determine your price. So keep in mind that the pricing strategy highly depends on your business and your current and future situation. There are many more different ways that you can determine price. Some other pricing approaches that you can consider is pricing to build clientele. So do you start at a price of value and reward preferred buyers with a discount? Another pricing approach could be pricing to maintain loyalty. Do you reward regular buyers with some kind of reward? Another pricing tactic could be pricing to move stock. Can you briefly discount without customers thinking that they can always buy your product when it's on sale? Another tactic is pricing for market penetration. So market penetration strategies aim to attract buyers by offering lower prices on goods and services. So while many new companies use this technique to draw attention away from the competition, penetration pricing does tend to result in an initial loss of income for the business. Over time, however, the increase in awareness can drive profits and help small businesses to stand out from the crowd. In the long run, after sufficiently penetrating a market, companies often wind up raising their prices to better reflect the state of their position within the market. So this is a tactic used. Again, it's really important to understand your situation and if something like this would work. Also, another tactic is bundle pricing. With bundle pricing, small businesses sell multiple products for a lower rate that consumers would face if they purchased each item individually. So not only is bundling good as an effective way of moving unsold items that are taking up space in your facility, but it can also increase the value perception in the eyes of your customers since you're essentially giving them something for free or at a discount. Bundle pricing is more effective for companies that sell complementary products. So for example, say we have we're a Saskatoon berry grower and we bundle Saskatoon preserves, syrup, and chutney in a gift set. Normally half as much of our Saskatoon chutney is sold compared to our preserves and syrup. So when we package them in a gift set and we offer them for sale as a set, our chutney sales may increase by 30% because we're packaging it with products that are what we consider maybe high sellers. Keep in mind the profits you earn on a high value items would then need to make up for the losses that you would take maybe on those lower value products that you add in the pricing bundle. So those are just some tactics, some different pricing strategies that you could use to help you and think about pricing your products. It's very high level. If you're looking for more information on pricing and also maybe more information on profit margins and some of those other areas of pricing, I would recommend taking a look at our e-learning tool as well. I also will have this link posted at the end of the webinar for those as well as some other resources, but definitely a good place to do some more research and learning. So how do we adjust for change? There are many approaches to pricing your product, but how do we adjust for change? We can adjust for change by knowing our costs, pricing accurate, and keeping good records will also help us when we're faced in a situation where we might have to react and make fast decisions. Here's a scenario. So let's just look at let's look at, let's say ingredient prices skyrocket. So the beef in our meat pies double in price. How does it affect your price? Well, now the costs of making our pies have increased. So where does that extra cost come from? What do we do to pass that cost on to our customers? What are our options? So I guess some of our options could be we increase the price of our pies to cover the increased cost of the meat. So this could be this could price your meat pies potentially maybe out of the marketplace, or maybe the market can bear that increase. So maybe it's not going to be a problem to increase your price. That's something you have to do some research and understand if the market can take that. Another option could be assuming that you have a profit margin incorporated into your product price. You could reduce your profit to cover the increase in the beef costs, or split the increase between increasing the price and reducing your profit, which ultimately isn't a great strategy in the long term, but might be something that you can do for temporary. Another option might be that you have to absorb the price and hope that the price of beef goes back down. This should be a short-term option if it's something that you do, as the longer you have to cover that increased beef cost, the more it will affect your business. Also, another option could be that this might be a good time to review all of your cost of productions and see if there are any areas where you can be more efficient and reduce your overall costs. See if maybe there are some areas where you could reduce costs, maybe purchasing a new piece of equipment, improving some efficiencies with labor could maybe decrease some of those costs, which would allow you and give you some room in your costs to eat some of those ingredient increased expenses. Let's look at another scenario of how we might adjust for change if, say, our sales to local restaurants have dropped, but deliveries have increased. So maybe we're making more deliveries more frequently to restaurants, or maybe we're increased our deliveries directly to customers. How would that affect our price? This may or may not have an effect on our price. So the clients might not see a change in our price, but it might be that we just have to adjust our costs in our books. So what I mean by that, maybe our delivery costs may have increased, but maybe we're paying less to middlemen or brokers to help get our products, or delivery services to help us get our products to restaurants. But now we're maybe spending more time packaging or more time on labor of getting that product packaged, that our total costs maybe haven't changed. They have just shifted where those costs go, if that makes sense. So it's important to note where those changes are, so that if more changes occur or opportunities come up, you're better prepared with information to make those important decisions that are strategic for your operation. Maybe you reviewed your costs and your delivery costs have increased. So what are other options with that? Maybe you need to set limits on the product quantities and frequencies of your delivery. What are other ways you can kind of deal with those costs? Some essentials to keep in mind. So some factors that affect your price and that are important to keep in mind are understanding. Oh, I think I jumped ahead. Here we go. Bear with me here. I hit one too many buttons. All right, so some factors that affect your price and are important to keep in mind is understanding value. So what will your consumer pay? If your customer values convenience, they may pay more for something that is convenient. For example, like maybe your product is baby potatoes, and maybe you decided to package those baby potatoes in a tin pan with a packet of spices ready to go for the grill. Your client might be more willing to pay for that than just the potatoes by themselves. Or in my case, with coffee, some places I get sick, so going to other coffee shops that can cater to those needs of mine, I put more value on that, so I'm willing to pay a higher price point. Costs. So it's important to make sure that the price you set covers all your costs. So having a good handle on all the costs that you need, all your variable costs and fixed costs to make your product is very important. If you don't have an accurate number on what it costs to make your product, you'll set up your pricing. It sets you up for pricing your product incorrectly. Profit. So there's a certain profit you may need to make. So it's important to figure out what that is, that you need to make beyond your costs, and making sure that you incorporate that into your price. Some people use that profit margins and that profit that they need to make for goal setting. Maybe they want to buy a piece of equipment in 5 years. So what would that look like if they can incorporate some of those costs right into their prices to help them better prepare for future goals? Sorry, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons today. Some other essentials to keep in mind is, what is your competition's price, right? So what do they offer their customers, and how is what you're offering different or unique? And how should your price reflect that? How can you explain that to your clients, the value? Also, understanding the type of product and the market channel you're selling in will help you with your pricing. If you're selling at a farmer's market versus to restaurants, that can make a difference too. Understanding what market channel you're going into and what's associated costs and all that to help figure out your price. Also, who's your customer, right? Knowing who your customer is very important. Are they price sensitive? Are they willing? What values do they have? Do they match with your product? Where are your customers located? And some other tips for successful pricing is be creative. By thinking of new ways to sell more to existing customers or how to attract customer groups, always keep thinking about ways you can keep customers interested. Listen to your customers, keep track of their comments, review them periodically so you can get some new ideas from them. This will help you determine what benefits of your products will attract your target market, what they're looking for. Maybe it's a certain package size that you offer. Maybe you're selling in a pack of 6, but ideally maybe it makes sense, your customers want a pack of 3. So listen to your customers, what they're looking for, what they're willing to spend. Some other tips for success is keep good records of how you arrive at your price and track the performance of your pricing so that you can adjust for prices if required in the future. Pricing isn't stagnant. You might have to review it once a year, more than once a year. So having up-to-date records can help you make better decisions on if you have to change your price, where your costs are coming from, if costs are increasing, if you need to start making changes within your operation. Also be flexible by regularly viewing your internal and external factors and understanding how pricing changes would affect your business will set you up ultimately for better success and allow you to, if those challenges or changes spring up on you quickly, that you can react quickly and take that opportunity to pivot when you need to. Also, do your homework, know your costs. I can't stress that more. I think I've said it a few times. That's ultimately the starting point of pricing your product. If you can't cover your costs, you're not going to make any money. So making sure that you have an accurate number, and you know exactly what those costs are, can help you with the success of your products. And here's just a list of some resources. The top ones are some fact sheets around pricing that might be useful. And also the 2 bottom ones are the pricing tools I refer to. One's on cost of production, one's on pricing your product. There, again, as I mentioned today, I'm talking pretty high level about pricing and things to kind of think about. So hopefully those tools you could dig a little deeper. And as I mentioned, feel free to reach out if you want to talk more about any of the topics we may not have touched on today. We didn't even get into retail. We didn't get into wholesale. We didn't get into profit margins or anything like that. So feel free to check out the resources and reach out if you have any questions. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Marissa. I will start with a first question for you. I am introducing a new herb to my existing herb product line. Do I price it cheaper as a customer is not familiar with this product?
I would caution pricing it cheaper. You may have to come up with a marketing strategy to educate your customers, maybe present the benefits of the new herb. Um, so again, like I mentioned, I talked about features and benefits, maybe do some work on that. You may be able to use other pricing strategies like we talked about bundling. So maybe you might be able to bundle that herb with one of your other high selling herbs. So that's why tracking, knowing your sales, knowing your pricing, your costs, keeping good records can maybe help you determine, okay, well, maybe this herb sells really well. Maybe I need to make a bundle, and that can maybe start educating your customers, get them sampling it, getting them under educated about that new herb. So I'd caution pricing it cheaper. Maybe there's other tactics that you could use to price it or get them familiar with your product.
All right, thank you. Next question. COVID-19 increased my cost of production. Do I increase my price to cover these extra costs?
You might. I would caution immediately increasing your price. You may find that some of the costs that you previously had may shift, right? So as that one example I mentioned, you might go through your costs and find out that they just shifted. So for example, you might have less costs on deliveries and you may have higher costs on packaging and labor, right? So they may have shifts, so you might not have to increase your price. So it's important first to go back, look at your cost breakdown before you start increasing costs, because you might be able to find how you can shift things around and find it in your costs and improve efficiencies than changing your price immediately, if that makes sense.
All right, next question. How would you calculate the cost of production when you have multiple products?
So with multiple products, cost of production, it's going to take some time. A lot of people tend not to break it out because it's going to take some time. You're going to, depending on what your product is, it's best to try to get it as detailed as you can and break it out. It's going to be tough for some of those fixed costs. You might be able to, if there's something that you have, I guess it depends on where you put your costs. I'm kind of rambling, but if you want to talk more about doing multiple costs, feel free to reach out. My email's there. Also, if you contact the Ag Info Center, 310 Farm, 310-3276, myself and there's two other colleagues of mine that are new venture specialists. You can reach us at that number, and we'd be happy to chat with you about that in more detail once we kind of know what your products are, what your costs are.
All right, next question. My selling season is real time in that it increases my fixed costs for fuel and electricity. How can I determine the cost of goods during the season when I don't have timely access to these costs? Or do I use last year's costs and allow some sort of guesstimate for the current year?
Yeah, so that's definitely a good question. You could definitely use last ones, definitely maybe add in a little bit of cushion, or maybe that's something you put into your, maybe you put those into your fixed costs if you kind of know, yeah, like you said, using last year's costs. Sorry, what was the question again? Just got
It's
sidetracked.
basically how can I determine the cost of goods during the season when I don't have access to timely
So
cost?
I definitely would use your past histories. If you don't have more than one season in under your belt, because if you had a few seasons on the belt, then you could kind of do an average. I'd take kind of the higher end of the average, right? So that you're making sure you're covering your costs. But you might have to do that for the first little bit.
All right, thank you. This one is more of a comment than a question, but I'll read it out. It said, feels like pricing gets difficult as there are more players like retailers, distributors, and brokers. What are you really supposed to do but to play the volume game just to stay alive, let alone grow?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good comment. No one said pricing was easy. And yeah, as you get into the retail world and you start adding more moving parts, you're adding, maybe, you've got other people taking chunks of your profit. Um, Grocery stores, distributors, it definitely adds lots of different elements that can be challenging. But that's why it's important keeping up and keeping on your pricing. And it's, like I said, it's subject. Everybody's, what works for one person doesn't work for another person, and different players in the game. All distributors aren't going to be the same. All retailers aren't going to be the same. So it's a constant juggling. Yeah, no, that's a good comment.
All right. Last question that I have here. What is the difference between retail price and wholesale price?
So retail price is the price that the end user pays for the product, right? So that's what they're going to see, whether it's at the retail store or you're selling directly to them. Wholesale price is the price of the product before the middleman or the distributor, the broker, the agent, or the retailer has added on their markup fees to price. So wholesale tends to be your cost of production and the profit you need to make, if that makes sense, before the middleman adds on their margins.
All right, and at this point we have no further questions. So Marissa, I would like to say thank you very much for your presentation today. And thank you to all of you who have taken your time to attend the webinar. After this webinar concludes, there will be a survey that appears on your screen. I would definitely appreciate your feedback. It'll take probably less than a minute to do. So thank you very much again, everyone. And I believe we will be sharing the PowerPoint presentation as well later on this afternoon as well. So take care, everyone, and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.